secrets, sacrifices, and new beginnings. After some contemplation, Zachary responded, "That sounds like a solid plan. Conducting a DNA test is the most straightforward and compelling approach. I'll send someone to bring Noah here so you can have a DNA test with him. The results can serve as indisputable evidence during the trial unless it turns out that Noah isn't their grandson." Serenity hesitated, but what if Noah isn't their grandson? Zachary was momentarily at a loss for words. The couple's minds were left in a state of uncertainty. Finally, Zachary suggested, "Let's proceed with a DNA test using your grandfather's hair." The old man is unlikely to cooperate willingly. Noah can help us get a few strands of his hair. The hair follicles need to be intact for the test. Serenity found Zachary's plan feasible and said, "We'll follow your approach. We can have Noah pluck some hair from my grandfather, and I'll use it for the DNA test. Once we have the results, we'll know whether my dad is truly their child." As they conversed, the journey back to the hilltop villa passed quickly. Upon their arrival, Mrs. Lane opened the gate. Seeing her reminded Serenity that it was time to consider increasing her salary. She raised this with Zachary, who responded, "You're in charge at home. Your decisions carry weight. Feel free to raise Mrs. Lane's wages without needing my approval." Serenity explained, "She has been of immense help to my sister, going beyond her usual duties. I think it's only fair to provide her with extra compensation for these additional tasks. We manage the household together. Even if you're not making the decision directly, I believe it's important to keep you informed. I don't want you to be unaware of what's happening in our home." Zachary readily agreed, "All right, go ahead and increase her salary." Jim overheard their conversation and turned around to see what was happening. Zachary added, "Your salary has been raised several times." Greed was not a good look for Jim, and he chuckled nervously. Jim and Mrs. Lane were the first to support Serenity, and as a result, they had received multiple raises and bonuses. Serenity playfully quipped, "Jim of all trades." Jim was initially taken aback but then broke into a smile, "Thank you for the compliment and your acknowledgement, Mrs." This exchange brought laughter from Serenity. Jim and Mrs. Lane had been loyal from the start, and their dedication had not gone unnoticed. Upon their return to the hilltop villa, Sam appeared seemingly out of nowhere to greet them with respect alongside Mrs. Lane. Serenity responded with a warm smile while Zachary briefly greeted them and ushered Serenity inside. Sam contemplated following them, but Mrs. Lane held him back, whispering in a low voice, "Do you really want to be a third wheel?" Sam shared, "Mr. Zachary wouldn't be pleased if I joined them." He inquired further, "Is the bedroom arranged according to Mr. Zachary's instructions?" Cecilia confidently replied, "It's all set up to create a romantic ambience. I'm certain that the missus will have an unforgettable experience, and it will certainly bring them even closer." Mrs. Lane expressed her hope, saying, "I'm looking forward to hearing good news from the missus soon." Acknowledging the couple's journey, Sam cautioned, "Feel free to discuss it with me, but please don't mention it to the missus. We shouldn't put pressure on her. After all, it hasn't been long since Mr. Zachary and the missus got back together. They might want some time together before thinking about expanding the family." Mrs. Lane understood, "I won't bring it up in front of the missus. Above all else, I hope that the missus and Mr. Zachary continue to cherish their love." She had observed Mr. Zachary falling in love with Serenity and had been a part of the couple's ups and downs. Mrs. Lane often acted as a confidant for Mr. Zachary, offering guidance. Sam added, "I hope that Mr. Zachary and the missus can have a happy ending without any more fights or silent treatments." He recalled the challenging period when Sam had to take time off, and Brant replaced him as the butler. It was during the time Mr. Zachary revealed his true identity to Serenity, who struggled to accept the truth, leading to heightened tension in the household. Brant constantly urged Sam to return and reassume his role as butler. This conversation brought back mixed memories for Mrs. Lane, who commented, "The York brothers certainly pamper their wives." Feeling a sense of comfort, she reflected on the loving relationship of the York family. While Sam and Mrs. Lane exchanged quiet words outside the house, Serenity remained unaware of their discussion. Zachary led her into the main house, and she was taken aback by the enchanting scene before her. The house had been beautifully and romantically decorated, with a rainbow of balloons and colorful flowers adding vibrancy to the space. A red carpet stretched out on the floor, guiding a path toward the bedroom. Serenity assumed that it led to the bedroom door. Additionally, there were flower petals scattered alongside the carpet, creating a romantic and picturesque atmosphere. In addition to the balloons and flowers, the walls displayed photographs of Serenity and Zachary in their daily lives. These images captured moments from their life together, such as grocery shopping, dining together, or enjoying moments in the garden. Serenity couldn't determine when these photos were taken or when they were printed. Nonetheless, the romantic decor and shared memories brought her on a nostalgic journey. Amidst all the challenges they had faced as a couple, she cherished the good times, and Zachary was willing to support her through the tough moments. Watching her reaction closely, Zachary was content to see the joy and wonder in her expression. He had invested significant effort in arranging this surprise, and it had clearly paid off. He knew how to set a romantic mood, just as Josh did for Jasmine. Serenity didn't have to envy her best friend. Moved by the beautiful setup, Serenity took Zachary's hands and exclaimed, "Zachary, it's stunning. The place is absolutely beautiful, and I feel incredibly loved." She could tell that he had put his heart into it, and for a man like him to create such a romantic atmosphere was a heartfelt gesture. Excitedly, Serenity suggested, "I want to take pictures and record a video to capture this moment. I want something to look back on whenever I watch the video." She wanted to preserve the special setting that Zachary had created for her. It would remain a cherished memory as they aged together. Of course, Zachary lovingly agreed. Serenity gently placed the bouquet on the coffee table and reached for her phone to capture the enchanting ambience, preserving Zachary's affection for her in a digital form. After Serenity had taken photos and videos, they both posed for a few together. Serenity was absolutely delighted. "Let's go upstairs," Zachary suggested. Serenity beamed with excitement and inquired, "Did you decorate the bedroom as well? It must be stunning and romantic. I'm so excited." Zachary didn't say a word but took her hand and led her upstairs. Indeed, the red carpet extended to their bedroom door. As Serenity pushed open the bedroom door, she couldn't help but smile. The room was adorned similarly to the one downstairs, yet the language of love was written in the air. In this sensual setting, a glass of wine would ignite the flames of desire to an all-time high. It was a night of pleasure and intimacy. As the sun rose in the east, the breaking dawn marked the beginning of a new day. Serenity couldn't rouse herself at her usual time, she was lost in sweet dreams. Meanwhile, the man beside her opened his eyes, gazing at Serenity's peaceful and contented face. His eyes softened as he took in every detail of her features, and he leaned in for a gentle kiss on her lips. "Good morning, Seren," he whispered in her ear after the tender kiss. Serenity, deep in slumber, remained unaware of the morning greeting. "I may have gone a little overboard last night, Seren," Zachary murmured into her ear and lightly kissed her cheeks. It took him some time to convince himself to get up. Half an hour later, he descended the stairs, feeling remarkably refreshed. Sam awaited him on the landing. As Zachary descended, Sam respectfully informed him, "Breakfast is ready, Mr. Zachary." Zachary glanced around the beautifully decorated room and commented, "This place has a different kind of beauty in the daylight." Sam grinned and replied, "You decorated it, especially for the missus. It's beautiful whether it's day or night. The missus will be overjoyed." Zachary, having enjoyed a wonderful night, had a broad smile on his face. Delighted, he remarked, Saren was thrilled about it. Setting a romantic atmosphere could truly brighten his wife's day. Zachary was determined to continue spicing up their romance so Saren could experience joy every day. Zachary took a seat in the dining room and instructed Sam, "Saren is still resting. Don't let anyone disturb her. Mrs. Lane can prepare something for her when she wakes up. Let her know that I'll arrange what we discussed last night." Sam responded with enthusiasm, "Understood." Judging from Mr. Zachary's happiness, Sam knew that the missus was more than content with last night's experience. Even the employees were pleased. Their usually stoic and unemotional boss had certainly embraced the art of romance. Old Mrs. York no longer needed to be concerned about Zachary's marriage. Grandma May was engrossed in matchmaking her other grandsons, inspired by her first successful attempt. Even though they were at the right age for marriage, some of her other grandsons remained single. She aimed to put them on the market, continuing her matchmaking endeavors. All that was left to do was wait for the birth of her great-granddaughter, for which she had promised a reward of $500 million. After finishing his breakfast, Zachary had a moment to himself. He spent 15 minutes reading the newspaper on the living room sofa before preparing to leave for work. Before his departure, he reminded Mrs. Lane to take good care of Serenity. By the concerned look on his face, Mrs. Lane was tempted to suggest bringing Serenity to work with him. Just as Zachary was about to get into the car, he called Jim over. He told Jim, "You don't have to follow me today. I need you to do something for me. Go to the Hunt's hometown and find Noah. You are free to use persuasion or threats, but he must pluck several strands of old Mr. Hunt's hair with follicles. Ensure you transport old Mr. Hunt's hair in a Ziploc bag." Jim respectfully acknowledged, "Sure. I'll get going now." Zachary then got into the car and left the Hilltop Villa under the escort of his security team. On the way to the office, Zachary remembered Serenity's plans to take Sunny to the bookstore so Liberty could focus on her business. He instructed the chauffeur, "Head to All You Can Eat. It's on the street leading up to Lewis and Company." Since Zachary and Duncan were best friends, the chauffeur often drove his boss to Lewis and Company. Upon hearing it was on the same street, the chauffeur immediately changed the route. Liberty had recently posted a job opening, and many people had inquired about the position since yesterday. Although she had initially planned to hire one person, Liberty ultimately selected two middle-aged women who appeared to be honest and skilled. They were hardworking and had families to support. The two waitresses were starting their work today. When Zachary arrived at the breakfast diner, it was already past the morning rush hour, yet the place was bustling with customers. Laborers who had just finished the graveyard shift were eager to try the new breakfast place. Liberty and the two waitresses were kept busy, leaving Sunny sleeping in a chair behind the cash register. Upon seeing his exhausted nephew, Zachary picked up Sunny and informed his sister-in-law, "I'm taking Sunny with me, Liberty." Stopping her work for a moment, Liberty asked, "Is it convenient for you? He can rest here if you're busy." "I accidentally woke him up this morning, and he stayed awake with me for several hours. He's exhausted. Where's Saren? Zachary reassured her, she's still asleep. It's okay. I'll take Sonny to the office, and he can rest in my private room. Sonny is a well-behaved boy and won't bother me. Zachary's office was spacious enough for Sonny to play. Liberty understood the situation when she heard that Serenity was still asleep and wanted to remind the couple to show restraint. Nevertheless, it wasn't her place to reprimand Zachary. Liberty responded with a smile, "All right then. Thank you. Sonny usually takes long naps, so he'll probably wake up in the afternoon. Call me when he does, and I'll come pick him up." Even if Zachary took her son away, Sonny would be sleeping for a while. Therefore, Liberty was comfortable leaving Sonny in Zachary's care. As Zachary took off with Sonny, Hank and Jessica entered the diner. Jessica's eyes scanned the diner as she entered, her disappointment evident upon not spotting Sonny. Nevertheless, she concealed her feelings behind a composed demeanor. It was the first day on the job for the two servers, and they remained unaware of Liberty's relationship with Hank. One of them approached the couple with a friendly smile, inquiring about their breakfast preferences. Hank led Jessica to an unoccupied table. "Jessica, wifey, what would you like to eat?" He had agreed to call her wifey in Liberty's presence at Jessica's request. Though Liberty had no romantic feelings for Hank, Jessica couldn't help but perceive her as a rival, likely due to the fact that she had taken Hank from Liberty. As a result, she felt a sense of insecurity that Hank might be taken by someone else. "I'll have whatever you're having," Jessica replied. Hank then placed an order for two with the waitress, who promptly noted it down and asked the couple to wait while the food was prepared. Most of the dishes were prepped in advance, with only the main dishes being made to order. Jessica casually inquired, "I don't see Sonny around. Where is he?" Hank was equally perplexed by Sonny's absence. He knew that Sonny should typically be in the diner. Had Serenity taken him? "I'll ask Liberty." Since Jessica had agreed to let the Browns visit Sonny and even have him stay at their residence for short periods, Hank could now openly discuss his son with his wife. Hank rose from his seat and approached Liberty, who was engrossed in the kitchen, using the window separating the dining area from the kitchen. He asked her, "Where's my son, Liberty?" Liberty glanced at him briefly before returning to her work. She finally replied, albeit after a considerable wait, "Sonny's asleep." "Where is he sleeping?" Hank inquired, but Liberty remained reticent. Hank then voiced his concerns in hushed tones, "Your business is doing well, and you're very busy. It might not be safe to have Sonny here. What if he slips out, and you don't notice? He could be at risk of being kidnapped. How will you handle that?" Hank regarded Sonny as an appealing target for kidnappers due to his adorable appearance. Hank asserted, "I intend to take Sonny to my parents' place so they can look after him for a while." Liberty glanced at Jessica, who was savoring her breakfast, and comprehended the unspoken message. Hank continued in a quiet voice, "Jessica has agreed to it. She's excited about having a child in the house. It will bring more life to the place, and my parents won't have constant disagreements with Jessica." Although Liberty was inclined to decline, she had to consider the terms of their divorce. In the end, Hank was Sonny's father. She stated, "You can take him to stay with you, provided he agrees. You can't force him if he's not comfortable with it." The final decision rested with her son, Sonny. He was always eager to spend time with his father, but he didn't want to live anywhere his mother wasn't present. Hank insisted, "Of course, he's eager. It's his home as well. I'm his father, and my parents are his grandparents. They are experienced in taking care of children. They're bored now without little kids to look after, and they've been urging me to take care of Sunny. Don't worry. You have custody of Sunny, and I won't contest it. I'm merely looking to share the responsibility, all for Sunny's safety. Hank added, "Where is Sunny sleeping? I'll take him home after breakfast. It pains me to see my son waking up so early because of your business ventures, whether it's the eatery or making money. It doesn't matter to me. But I want to ensure Sunny's well-being." Sunny went with his uncle, Liberty informed Hank. "Him? But Sunny's still asleep, isn't he?" Hank asked, surprised by the situation. He was indeed asleep. Zachary took him while he was still sleeping. "You can pick him up at York Corporation whenever you're ready," Liberty explained. Hank was left momentarily speechless by this turn of events. "If Sunny doesn't want to stay at your place for a few days, you can visit him at Saren's bookshop," Liberty continued. "I'm quite busy, and it's challenging for me to find time to look after him. However, he'll be spending a lot of time at Saren's bookshop." Hank furrowed his brows, sensing that his son's choice was likely his aunt over his father. Hank had not been very involved in his son's life. Though Sunny referred to him as Dad, their relationship wasn't very close. Back at the table, Jessica noticed Hank's troubled expression. She inquired, "You look upset. What happened? Did you have another argument with her? Is Sunny here?" "Zachary took Sunny," Hank explained. "She said that we can't make Sunny stay with us if he doesn't want to. I can already tell that Sunny won't want to stay with us. My parents have never cared for him before. I used to be swamped with work, so I hadn't spent much time with Sunny. I doubt he'll want to live with us for a while." After a moment of silence, Hank added, "We can visit when we miss the boy." While Jessica was concerned inside, she remained outwardly calm and offered understanding advice. Building a bond, even between fathers and sons, takes time. When you have time, visit him often. Take him out, bring him to nice restaurants, and have fun with him at the playground. He'll learn to trust you as his father and be more willing to stay with you." Hank agreed, saying, "You're right. We don't need to rush things. We can take it slow." "Why don't you tell Liberty that we'll take Sunny to the zoo this weekend?" Jessica suggested. "That's a great idea." "Sunny was thrilled when I mentioned taking him to the zoo," Hank replied, not fully comprehending Jessica's intentions. He believed that Jessica wanted to bond with Sunny and potentially have a child of her own. Back at York Corporation, Zachary entered the office carrying Sunny, earning surprised looks from the company's employees. When had their CEO had a child? Was he not married for just 6 months? How did a 6-month-old marriage result in a 2 or 3-year-old child? Zachary had always shown a fondness for his nephew. Without the assistance of his bodyguards, Zachary carried Sunny out of the car and into the office building, surprising everyone with his care and attention toward the child. No one found it strange that their CEO doted on his wife, as the York brothers were known for being loving and devoted husbands. However, it had never occurred to anyone that Zachary had the potential to be a stay-at-home dad. Once Zachary brought Sunny into the elevator, the two receptionists began whispering in hushed tones. "Is that the boss's illegitimate child?" The other receptionist gave her colleague a glance and explained, "Don't you know that his wife has a sister?" "I do. The boss's wife lost her parents at an early age and has been living with her sister for over a decade. Everybody knows that." "Oh, I see now. The child must be the nephew of the boss's wife. I heard that her sister divorced her husband and has custody of the child. The boy is around 2 to 3 years old." The receptionist, now enlightened, spoke with a smile, that makes sense. The child must be his wife's nephew. It looks like he's holding his own child by the gentle way he carries the child. He might be eager to become a father. Perhaps the missus is expecting, and he's practicing his parenting skills. He probably wants to be a very involved dad. The other receptionist was taken aback. Was that a possibility? Deep in slumber, Sonny remained undisturbed during the car ride and the walk to the office. His uncle gently laid him down on the bed in a private resting room. Zachary carefully removed Sonny's shoes and socks and took off his jacket before tucking him under a warm blanket. The sight of the adorable child melted Zachary's heart, and he leaned down to place a tender kiss on Sonny's cheek. "Sonny, every time I look at you, I wish to have a little boy or girl with your aunt," Zachary murmured, though the almost 3-year-old was sound asleep and, therefore, unresponsive. Zachary lingered for a while, gazing fondly at his nephew, before leaving the private resting room. As he emerged, Mr. Chaplin knocked on the door and entered. "Mr. Lewis is here, sir." All right, Zachary remembered that he had a meeting with Duncan about a potential partnership. He signaled to let Duncan in. Duncan strode into the office, grinning. "I heard you brought a child to the office, Zachary. Is it your secret love child?" "I can't believe you've been keeping that from me. We've been friends for years, and you never mentioned having a child." Resisting the urge to throw something at Duncan, Zachary replied irritably, "He's not my illegitimate child. He has his own parents, you know. But someone really adores him and aspires to be his dad." "Sonny?" Duncan promptly mentioned Sonny. Zachary found it curious. Duncan's quick response made it sound as if he had just confessed to something. Duncan did indeed adore Sonny and wished the boy was his son, but it wasn't the same as having romantic feelings for Liberty. "Who else apart from Sonny? People might not know me well, but you certainly do. If I had an illegitimate child at this age, it would have sent shockwaves through the community." Zachary moved closer and gestured for Duncan to sit on the sofa. Duncan headed to the private resting room instead and inquired, "Is Sonny playing in the private resting area? Is he sleeping? I couldn't spot him when I passed by all you can eat." "He's sleeping. Please don't wake him." "I won't wake him. I just want to give his little face a kiss. I've been longing to nibble on those cheeks. How can he be so adorable?" Zachary permitted Duncan to enter the quiet zone and waited while his best friend spent time with Sonny. Duncan eventually emerged, a contented expression gracing his rugged features. He appeared to have showered Sonny's face with affectionate kisses. "Sonny takes after my sister-in-law," Zachary remarked out of the blue. Duncan agreed, saying, "He certainly does." He had no interest in smothering Hank's genes with kisses if the boy had inherited them. Seeing that his subtle message had gone over his best friend's head, Zachary simply smiled without providing further explanation. "Why did you bring Sonny to the office?" Duncan inquired. "Saren was planning to take him to her shop, but she overslept today, so I brought him here. He's asleep anyway, so he won't be a bother." Oh, Duncan didn't see any issue with that. "Would you like something to drink?" "Just a glass of water, please." Duncan said this but proceeded to pour a drink himself, taking the opportunity to chide Zachary, "You never cater to Josh and me when we visit. We always have to fend for ourselves." "Only you two can make yourselves at home here," Zachary quipped. Duncan remained silent. Since he was here to discuss a potential partnership with his best friend, they quickly delved into their business matters. After they had ironed out the details, Duncan prepared to leave and mentioned, "I'm going to check on Sunny again. If he's awake, I'll take him out for some fun." "You're taking him out? I have a feeling he'll be bawling his eyes out while you scramble to return him," Zachary teased. Duncan choked on his words. That was an accurate prediction. Sunny didn't take kindly to his hugs. Nonetheless, Duncan entered the private resting room once more. He didn't take long to call out, "Zachary! Zachary! Hurry!" "What's wrong?" His frantic cry startled Zachary, who jumped to his feet and dashed into the private resting room. "Sunny wet the bed. Look at this puddle of pee on the bedsheets," Duncan informed his friend, pointing at the child on the bed. Zachary was at a loss for words. He approached and removed his jacket before picking up Sunny. He carefully took off the wet pants and wrapped the child in the jacket, ensuring Sunny didn't catch a cold. Sunny had been asleep for a while and opened his eyes when Zachary was changing his pants. Seeing Zachary, Sunny curled his lips and mumbled, "Uncle Zach." "Oh, Sunny's awake." Sunny smiled. Zachary turned around, carrying Sunny out of the private resting room, and called to his friend who had entered, "Duncan, could you remove the bedsheets?" "What? Can't stand the smell?" Duncan was left speechless. The odor wasn't the issue, it was his first time dealing with a small child who had wet the bed. Duncan took off the sheets and, recalling that his best friend had a washing machine in the private resting room, he placed the soiled sheets and pants inside. He exited the private resting room to find Sunny sitting on the sofa, still using his uncle's jacket as makeshift pants. "Duncan, can you buy some clothes for Sunny? He needs pants." "Okay." Duncan rushed out to purchase clothing for Sunny. He returned quickly with a dozen different options from a children's clothing store. "Zachary, I'm back with the clothes. I'm not sure if they're the right size." Duncan entered the office with a large bag of clothing and explained, "The quality seemed good, so I bought them. We'll see if they fit Sunny. If they don't, I can get the correct size." This was Duncan's first time shopping for the boys' clothes, so he wasn't sure about the sizing. Zachary accepted the bag of clothes and said, "A couple of sets should be enough. Why did you buy a dozen? And why is there a dress?" Duncan replied, puzzled, "Is that a dress? I may have picked it up by mistake." Seeing his best friend pull out a long-sleeved dress from the bag, Duncan turned red with embarrassment. "Uncle Zach, this looks nice," Sunny commented, reaching for the dress. Zachary said, "Sunny, this is a dress, not for boys. You can't wear dresses, you're a boy." Sunny's dark eyes sparkled with curiosity as he asked, "Why can't boys wear dresses?" Duncan replied, "That's because dresses are typically worn by girls." Sunny turned his attention to Duncan. Meanwhile, Zachary grabbed a pair of pants and helped Sunny put them on. He explained, "Boys often have to do tasks that require a lot of strength and wearing a dress can make it more challenging." Sunny questioned, "Why do boys have to do the hard work?" Zachary responded, "Boys handle the heavy lifting so that girls don't have to. Lighter tasks are left to your mom and your aunt." Sunny began to grasp the idea and said, "When I grow up, I'll do the heavy lifting, so Mom and Aunt Sarah won't have to work so hard." Zachary smiled and praised, That's a good plan, Sonny. Duncan was at a loss for words as he listened to their conversation. Then, the intercom phone began ringing. Zachary excused himself to answer the call, and upon returning, he informed Sonny, "Your mom's here, Sonny." "Mom's here." Upon hearing his mother's arrival, Sonny promptly stashed the dress in the bag and searched for his wet pants. Unable to locate them, he asked, "Uncle Zach, where are my other pants?" Duncan replied, "They were wet, so I put them in the washing machine." Sonny didn't react and proceeded to carry the bag of clothes. He also reminded Zachary, "Uncle Zach, don't forget to give me the pants once they're clean and dry." Zachary responded with a smile, "Sure, I'll return them to you. They wouldn't fit me anyway." Impressively, the boy remembered to bring home his soiled pants. "Sonny, don't take the dress. Dunk will return it. You can't wear the dress." Pausing in his steps, Sonny turned back and stated, "I want to keep the dress, Uncle Zach. The dress is for the little sister Aunt Sarah's going to have." Zachary chuckled, delighted with the comment. He approached Sonny and picked him up. "Do you think your aunt will have a girl?" "My mom said so." Zachary gleefully responded, "That's right. Your aunt will give you a beautiful little sister. We won't return the dress. You can keep it as a gift for your little sister." Sonny nodded solemnly. He planned to buy many dresses for his little sister once Aunt Sarah had her. "Mr. York, the meeting is starting." Mr. Chaplin knocked on the office door, reminding Zachary of the meeting. Zachary wanted to accompany Sonny to the lobby, but he quickly checked the time. He handed Sonny to Duncan and said, "Sonny, let Dunk take you downstairs to your mom. I need to attend a meeting. I have to earn money for your little sister's formula milk." "Okay." Although Sonny wasn't thrilled about being carried by Duncan, he understood that Uncle Zach had to work. Formula milk was costly, and Sonny had often gone with his mother to purchase it, witnessing her pay a significant amount for the delicious milk. Duncan carried Sonny, along with the bag of new clothes, to the elevator. Meanwhile, Liberty was waiting in the VIP lounge in the lobby. Her shop usually closed around noon, but she decided to close early due to concerns about Sonny waking up and needing Zachary's attention. She closed the shop at 10 o'clock. Moments later, she spotted Duncan carrying her son as they emerged from the elevator. With a leap to her feet, Liberty moved swiftly out of the VIP lounge, calling out, "Sonny." The two of them looked over, and with Sonny struggling to get down, Duncan gently lowered him to the ground. The boy then dashed toward his mother. "Mom?" Liberty knelt down and lovingly asked her son, "Were you a good boy? Did you trouble your uncle?" "I was a good boy. But I wet my pants, Mom." Sonny looked a bit embarrassed admitting this. Liberty inquired, "Were you sitting somewhere?" "Uncle's bed." Liberty was momentarily at a loss for words. "Dunk bought me lots of new clothes and even a dress. We can keep the dress for Aunt Sarah's baby girl." Liberty was speechless. Duncan had shopped for clothes for her son, and the selection included a dress. How clueless could he be to buy a dress for a boy? Unfazed by the situation, Duncan stepped closer and handed the bag of clothes to Liberty. He then gently lifted Sonny and said, "Come on. I'll walk you both out." Liberty kept pace, saying, "I rode my e-bike. Mr. Lewis, how much were the clothes? Let me reimburse you." Duncan hesitated momentarily before saying, "It's all right. They weren't that expensive." Liberty insisted on repaying him, and Duncan eventually agreed. She withdrew $1,500 from her purse and handed it to him, saying, "This is for the clothes, Mr. Lewis." Duncan, holding Sunny with one hand, accepted the money without counting and placed it in his pocket. The two of them walked out of the office building. After a moment, Duncan asked, "Are you sure you don't need a ride?" "We're fine. Thank you, Mr. Lewis." Duncan set Sunny down and commented, "Drive safely. Don't forget to put a helmet on Sunny. It's quite windy today." "I have a helmet in the trunk." Balancing the bag of clothes in one hand, Liberty held her son's hand with the other and said, "Say goodbye to Mr. Lewis, Sunny." Sunny waved his hand, saying, "Bye, Dunk." Duncan waved back with a warm smile, "Goodbye, Sunny." Duncan stood there for a moment before making his way to his car. Just as he reached his car, his phone began ringing. Observing that it was Zachary calling, Duncan answered while walking. "Aren't you in a meeting, Zachary? Can't I take a break and have some water? Why didn't you drive my sister-in-law and Sunny home?" Zachary was still in his office, failing to admit that he was being a bit nosy. He had spotted his sister-in-law leaving with Sunny and wanted to chide his best friend for missing the chance. Liberty rode her bike here, so she didn't need a ride. "I'm quite busy, too. I have to rush to the Wiltspoon Hotel for a meeting with a client." Zachary was left speechless. "Your sister-in-law paid me for the clothes." Growing uneasy, Zachary inquired, "Paid for what?" "The clothes I bought for Sunny. I spent almost $2,000, but I only asked for $1,500. Zachary was bewildered and muttered, "It's easy to see why your mother is so worried if you'll ever get married." He then ended the call. Having been hung up on, Duncan grumbled to himself, "Why all the random questions? I know you're already married, and your family isn't pestering you to get married, but mine is. And now, here you are, making such an uncouth remark. You really are a terrible friend." Poor Zachary. Serenity awoke with a rumbling stomach. As she gradually regained her awareness, her instinctual reflex led her to the empty space beside her, but the wolf was no longer there. She tilted her head and observed the untouched pillow. Even the warmth under the blanket had dissipated. Her furry companion had risen early. Serenity thought the day had just started, but when she glanced at her phone to check the time, she was jolted into action. It was nearly noon. No wonder she felt so hungry. After a deep slumber and waking up so late, it would be odd not to be hungry. Zachary hadn't woken her up. Serenity hurriedly fetched a fresh set of clothes for herself, and headed to the bathroom. She dashed downstairs, foregoing any makeup. As she descended the stairs, her phone started ringing. It was Zachary. "Zachary," Serenity answered. She promptly complained in a hushed tone, "You didn't wake me when you got up." "I've just woken up, and it's already noon," Zachary chuckled on the other end. "I saw you sleeping so peacefully, so I thought you could use some more rest. I called Miss Socks and told her you were a bit tired today and would return to the store later in the afternoon." Jasmine might misconstrue if Zachary told her what they had been up to last night. Nevertheless, Serenity and Zachary had been quite carefree and unrestrained. "Are you off work now?" "I just finished a meeting and am about to have lunch. Please make sure you eat before heading out." Zachary wanted to ensure that she didn't leave on an empty stomach. "It's lunchtime, so I'll definitely have something to eat before I leave. You go ahead and have your lunch. I'm going downstairs." "All right, I love you." Serenity smiled. I'm not quite used to hearing such sweet words. I love you too. She then playfully kissed the phone, a move she had learned from Jasmine's call with Josh. She laughed and asked Zachary, I kissed you. Could you feel it? Zachary laughed with delight and replied, I felt it. After the romantic evening he had planned for Serenity last night, she had indeed become more affectionate towards him. Zachary decided he would keep the romance alive in the future, so his wife would always be passionate about him. Serenity giggled and ended the call. Zachary hesitated to move his phone from his ear as he missed her playful laughter. He hoped he could always hold on to Serenity. At that moment, Zachary realized why his father had retired immediately and wasn't concerned about anything after taking over York Corporation. His father spent every day with his mother. It seemed that growing old with someone for a lifetime was worth more than anything else in the world. Unfortunately, unlike his father, Zachary hadn't married and started a family early. He had only tied the knot at the age of 30, and he was 31 this year. He had yet to find a successor. He would need to continue running York Corporation for at least 20 to 30 years before he could retire. Serenity was unaware that her wolf was already contemplating retirement. When she reached the ground floor, Mrs. Lane greeted her with a warm smile. Good morning, Mrs. York. You're up. I imagine you must be famished. Lunch is almost ready. Serenity hummed her agreement and had the sense that Mrs. Lane was giving her a meaningful look. Pretending not to notice, she invited Mrs. Lane to join her for lunch. After filling her empty stomach, Serenity was in a better mood to admire the interior of the house. Zachary hadn't instructed anyone to tidy up, preserving the romantic atmosphere from the previous night. Just then, Jim entered the room. Mrs. York. Jim stood in front of Serenity, offering a small, transparent bag containing a dozen strands of old Mr. Hunt's hair. Mrs. York, this is what Mr. Zachary requested me to do earlier today. It's done. These are my grandfather's hair. Serenity inquired as she accepted the bag. As a result of her conversation with Zachary the previous night, they decided to enlist Noah's help in obtaining old Mr. Hunt's hair. They intended to take these samples for a DNA test. Jim confirmed, yes. Serenity thanked Jim and inquired, Noah was willing to help? He's quite apprehensive of you, Mrs. York. I used you as a bit of leverage, and he willingly plucked a dozen strands of his grandpa's hair. As for how Noah convinced old Mr. Hunt to let him collect his hair, Jim wasn't too concerned. The only thing that mattered was the result. Serenity laughed. He's still young and impulsive. He doesn't have a bad nature. Noah was just a couple of months shy of his 18th birthday, making him naturally spirited and energetic. After obtaining old Mr. Hunt's hair, Serenity asked Jim to take her to the DNA testing center. Serenity had already undergone a DNA test with Mrs. Stone, so she was familiar with the location of the testing center. Jim checked with Zachary for further instructions before driving Serenity there. As they exited the testing center, they noticed that Zachary's convoy had just arrived. Serenity made her way towards the tall man who had stepped out of the car. You must have some free time this afternoon to come and pick me up. Jim could have dropped me off. Zachary approached her and took her hand. He led her to the car and spoke in a hushed tone, whenever I'm free, I hope to be the one picking up my wife. Serenity didn't protest about his domineering nature. Luckily, his attitude now came with respect. He granted her the freedom she needed, unlike before when he paid no heed to her feelings. I went to Liberty's place this morning to pick up Sonny. Zachary spoke in a casual tone while subtly seeking his wife's approval. With your busy work schedule, How will you manage to look after Sunny if he stays with you? Zachary responded, my office is quite spacious, so I let him play there. He was well behaved and didn't throw any tantrums. Serenity, who had raised her nephew, knew him well. As obedient as Sunny was, he was still a 3-year-old full of mischief, energy, and curiosity. Without his favorite toys, he couldn't sit still for more than 5 minutes before causing chaos. He was still asleep when I brought him to my office. He only started playing after he woke up. Serenity realized what had happened and couldn't help but laugh. I told you so. But Sunny wet my bed, Zachary continued, so, I asked Duncan to buy him some clothes. He ended up getting a dozen sets of outfits, including a pretty dress. Serenity was speechless. Duncan had purchased a dress for Sunny. Zachary explained, Sunny mentioned that the dress is reserved for his little aunt's future baby. Zachary gazed at Serenity with passion in his eyes as he spoke. Serenity understood his intentions and playfully pinched his cheek. Don't look at me like that. I haven't taken any secret medicine. Saran, Zachary said, pulling his wife close and placing a hand on her flat belly. I truly hope we can have a little girl, just as Sunny suggested. This led them to discuss having a baby again. Serenity asked, I heard that anyone in your family who gives birth to a son is rewarded $50 million by the elders, but it's $500 million if it's a daughter. Is that true? She also mentioned that none of the women married into your family so far have received the $500 million reward, Serenity added. Zachary expressed his hope, saying, I wish you could claim Nana's $500 million reward. Serenity contemplated for a moment and replied, your family hasn't had a daughter for generations. It might be a family trait, destined to have sons only. A somber tone crept into Zachary's voice, that's a possibility. Our ancestral line did have a daughter, but she couldn't be raised. After her passing, no daughters had been born in the family. I recall my aunt being extra careful with her diet when she was pregnant with Rowan, eating foods believed to promote the conception of a girl. Zachary continued to recount the events of that year. Her pregnancy with Rowan was different from the past, and everyone assumed she was going to have a daughter. We even consulted an acquaintance who predicted it was a girl, which thrilled everyone. Zachary's excitement was evident in his storytelling. I was a teenager at the time, so I was particularly eager for the arrival of my little aunt's daughter. I secretly prepared many toys for her. The adults bought numerous pink clothes and shoes, while I discreetly bought a pink dress. Callum and Kevin, who were close in age, did the same. He recalled, the day my aunt gave birth to Rowan happened to be a Saturday. Our entire family, young and old, as well as extended relatives, gathered at the hospital. The corridors were filled with our family members. The atmosphere was more joyous than Christmas. Zachary laughed as he continued, Nana was so elated that her cheeks hurt from smiling, believing that she would finally hold a granddaughter. However, when the nurse appeared with a chubby baby in her arms, Nana grabbed her collar, accusing her of carrying the wrong baby. She insisted my aunt was pregnant with a girl, so why was a plump boy presented to her? Everyone suspected the nurse had made a mistake, but she explained that only my aunt was in the delivery room, and she had indeed given birth to a boy. Serenity couldn't help but laugh, imagining the chaotic scene. Zachary went on, we had no choice but to accept the reality. Even the nurse found it humorous. She noted that every other family would be thrilled with a son, except for ours, which demanded a daughter as if the hospital owed us a girl. He chuckled as he recalled, we dispersed, and the firecrackers we intended to light at home remained untouched. We had prepared girls' clothing, so Rowan spent his early days in pink outfits. Only after being discharged from the hospital did he switch to his brother's hand-me-downs. My uncle even procrastinated for half a month before buying new clothes. Zachary mused, "It's become a family legend. Nobody in our family can seem to have a daughter, and even if they do, they don't seem to survive." Serenity offered her thoughts. "It might be that bad luck has been passed down in your family, leading to the birth of sons and difficulty in raising daughters. It seems this trend has been ongoing since my grandfather's time, so it likely started with my great-grandfather," Zachary replied. "We never considered this issue or consulted a fortune teller for help. Nowadays, there are very few skilled fortune tellers. Many merely scratch the surface and make a living from conning people for pocket change." "Indeed," Serenity responded, showing her interest in ancestral fortune-telling knowledge. "In my bookstore, I have a variety of books on fortune-telling, but unfortunately, I lack the ability to understand them. Most of my customers are middle school students, and the younger generation doesn't put much stock in fortune-telling. These books are tucked away in a corner, collecting dust, waiting for someone to discover them and give them purpose." Zachary shared his plans. "Let's bring this up with Nana. She's knowledgeable, and she may have heard some legends from experts. I'd like to consult a fortune teller. I truly want to have a daughter." Zachary feared he might face the same fate as family members from his great-grandfather's generation, giving birth to a daughter only to lose her. While medical advancements improved, some aspects of life remained beyond the reach of money. In the past, Zachary's Nana had consulted a fortune teller to read the futures of Zachary and Serenity. Could fortune teller possibly have insight into solving their predicament? If their knowledge of the matter was only superficial, it might not be sufficient to help the Yorks address their issue. Amid their conversation about their desire for a daughter, Zachary and Serenity found themselves once again in front of Wilkesboon School. Zachary accompanied his wife into the store, yet he couldn't stay for long as he needed to return to work. Serenity couldn't help but giggle when she considered how they discussed having a daughter throughout their entire journey to the store. Jasmine noticed her amusement and asked, "What's so amusing? Share it with me, and make me happy too." Serenity received some sweets Jasmine had arranged for tea and replied, "Mr. Buchan is treating you exceptionally well. He's considerate and attentive." Taking a piece of the treats, she continued, "He's learning from your husband. If it weren't for Mr. York setting an example, I wouldn't have realized that Mr. Buchan is also a gentleman." Serenity couldn't contain her smile as she stated, "Zachary lying to me serves as a model for everyone. It's rather beneficial." In light of Sean's infatuation with Serenity, Zachary knew that Jasmine was incredibly kind to her. She didn't support Sean's pursuit of Serenity, which Zachary appreciated. Nevertheless, he couldn't help but feel a touch of jealousy regarding Jasmine's importance to Serenity. Serenity explained, "I didn't do much this morning. I was simply moved by him last night, and it led to me sleeping late. He did something romantic for me, and I recorded a video of it. I'll cherish it for the future." Serenity showed Jasmine the video while recounting the events. Upon viewing the video, Jasmine commended Zachary for his romantic gesture, and her ambiguous smile suggested she found the situation rather intriguing. She said, "Now it makes sense why you stayed up late last night. Hee hee." Serenity couldn't resist tickling Jasmine, causing her to burst into fits of laughter. She soon begged for mercy as her laughter turned into uncontrollable mirth. With a chuckle, Jasmine remarked, "A good husband requires the guidance of his wife. Saren, you're shaping your husband into a man of high morals, physical prowess, and intellect. It's incredible to think that the usually reserved Mr. York would create such a romantic scene for you." Jasmine wasn't surprised by Josh's romantic gestures, as he often did sweet things for her. Given his high IQ and EQ, it was expected. Zachary, on the other hand, possessed a high IQ but a lower EQ. When Josh offered him relationship advice, he frequently teased Zachary for his lack of open-mindedness. It wasn't easy for Zachary to go the extra mile for Serenity, which explained why she was so moved that she ended up sleeping through most of the morning. Serenity sweetly expressed, "He's made significant changes for me. It's only fair that I put effort into this too. A married couple who are willing to give and invest in their marriage will endure." Jasmine responded with a hint of envy, "I'm quite envious. But hey, you're the envy of others too." Jasmine playfully added, "I enjoy being the object of envy. I feel happy and blessed ever since Josh entered my life. I also no longer have to deal with my family setting up blind dates for me, even my aunt has stopped." Serenity remarked, "Your aunt must be elated. She was really hoping you'd marry into a wealthy family for a life of privilege." Jasmine shared her perspective, "I don't want to be married into a wealthy family, but I'd gladly do so if it's Josh's family. I'd never be bored for the rest of my life. I'm especially intrigued by Julian now. How many remarkable women are needed to complement such an extraordinary man?" Serenity contemplated, "Sometimes, two exceptional people may not make a great pair. It depends on the type of person Julian is attracted to." Jasmine pondered, "I think he must have exceedingly high standards. He's a few years older than Josh but is still single. Why are so many brilliant men single and unmarried?" Serenity speculated, "Perhaps they're too engrossed in their work and believe there are more crucial things to attend to than falling in love and getting married." Jasmine laughed, thinking about how preoccupied Josh was. "They're probably waiting to meet someone like us." Amused by their conversation, Serenity laughed too. Serenity had enlisted someone to help her create handicrafts, allowing her to take her time with the project. While working, she also switched on her computer to begin drafting a contract and a proposal. Among her closest friends, she was the one who originally hailed from the countryside. Despite living in the city, she still retained her knowledge of the land. Their plan involved leasing abandoned fields to cultivate various vegetables and fruits. Vegetables needed to be grown near a water source, but they could be less selective when growing grass. For larger scale vegetable cultivation, manual watering was not practical. To address this, Serenity decided that after signing the contract and starting the project, they would hire professionals to drill wells in the vegetable fields. They would install water pipes and 360-degree automatic sprinkler nozzles for efficient automated irrigation. While Serenity was engrossed in drafting the contract, she occasionally communicated with Jasmine. Jasmine would review the document and comment, "I only care about investments and dividends. I don't understand these details at all, and I can't contribute in any meaningful way. You know me, I just enjoy the pleasures of life. Using my brain requires too much effort. My mom always says that raising me is like raising a pig. It's due to my personality that my aunt hoped I'd marry into a wealthy family so they wouldn't need to worry about me." Serenity was momentarily at a loss for words. "Just print it out, and let Elisa take a look. She's more well versed in these matters. We can make changes, or we can have their legal department draft one for us, it amounts to the same thing." Having indulged in the delicious treats Josh sent her, Jasmine decided to express her gratitude by sending him a message. "Mr. Buchan, the treats you sent over are absolutely delightful. I truly enjoyed them. Love you?" Josh's response was prompt, "If you like those, I'll have 2 more boxes sent your way tomorrow." Satisfying Jasmine's food cravings was one of the easiest tasks for Josh, he merely needed to cater to her taste buds. During their casual conversation, Jasmine remarked, "Elisa didn't come over today." Serenity provided some context, her best friend is going through a breakup, so she's there to offer support. In reality, Elisa was not comforting a friend experiencing a breakup but visiting her new neighbor. Elisa intended to go out in the afternoon, and while driving past her neighbor's villa, she noticed the gate was open, and the car Remy usually drove was parked inside. Spotting Remy in the courtyard, she decided to stop her car. Initially, Elisa thought she'd exchange pleasantries with Remy, but he extended an invitation to tour his villa. Consequently, she parked her car in front of his residence and paid a visit for a while. Elisa had previously visited this villa, which was the closest to the Stone family's property. Familiar with the layout, she commented, "I think there's no need for significant changes in the courtyard. The plants and trees are thriving. To cultivate new ones would require substantial effort for them to flourish." Remy responded with a smile, "I was contemplating replacing everything, but your suggestion makes sense. I'll rearrange them appropriately. I'll remove the ones I don't fancy and introduce the ones I prefer." Elisa nodded in agreement. A renovation was in order for the house layout, and adjustments were needed at the villa's entrance. Remy had enlisted an interior designer who deemed the original layout outdated, and the previous owner had not updated the interior. Trends and tastes evolved, rendering older styles obsolete once newer ones emerged. "Elisa, I don't trust my own taste. Can you help me explore the most suitable style for my villa's renovation? I view this villa as my Wiltspoon residence, where I'll eventually live with my wife and children. With your sense of style, I would appreciate your suggestions." Elisa raised a valid point, people's tastes vary greatly. If I help you design according to my taste and your villa is renovated accordingly, what if your future wife doesn't like that style? Remy responded with a smile, "I have faith in your taste. I believe my future wife will share the same style preference as you. You hold the highest position and status in Wiltspoon's upper class. I trust that no one possesses better taste than you." He spoke the truth. Elisa's status indeed ranked at the top of Wiltspoon's upper class since there were no daughters in the wealthiest family. Elisa expressed her confidence, "That's true. However, don't blame me if you implement my suggestions, and the outcome doesn't align with your and your future wife's preferences." Remy reassured her, "I won't, I absolutely won't. I trust your taste, Elisa. I admire the style of your home greatly." Elisa playfully mentioned, "Our house is decorated to match my mom's preferences. She favors classic elegance and understated luxury." Remy complimented her mother, "Mrs. Stone has exquisite taste. My grandmother shares the same aesthetic. Elisa, if you're available, please visit often and provide me with more suggestions." Elisa readily assured Remy, "Feel free to call me whenever you're here, and I'll be happy to provide some advice. I guarantee your future wife will be delighted with your renovated home. And when that time comes, you'll have to compensate me generously." Remy responded with a smile, "Your efforts will be rewarded greatly." Observing his smile, Elisa realized that he always had it when speaking. It was a warm, inviting smile, making people naturally open up to him. "All right, consider me your renovation consultant." Remy expressed his gratitude with a smile, and Elisa suggested, "Shall we go for a coffee now?" Remy replied, "I usually avoid coffee or tea in the afternoon." Elisa playfully added, Not drinking coffee in the afternoon doesn't mean we can't go to a cafe. So, where are you taking me? In my free time, I like to unwind at the cafe on the first floor of Wiltspoon Hotel with some coffee and music. It helps me relax. In Annenberg, I'd frequent the meeting ground, which my sister-in-law and her best friend co-own. It's become quite popular, with a couple of branches opened, but the original store remains the favorite. Many patrons visit for my sister-in-law and Miss Jennings, who's an Ormond family missus. Elisa enjoyed listening to Remy and commented, "Next time I'm in Annenberg, take me to your sister-in-law's cafe. How does it compare to Wiltspoon's Beans and Cream?" Remy, who had visited Beans and Cream, thought for a moment before responding, "My sister-in-law's cafe has more of an influencer vibe since everyone flocks there for her." In contrast, Beans and Cream is tranquil and cozy. Each has its unique advantages. Beans and Cream was owned by old Mrs. York, and Remy learned about it during his collaboration with York Corporation. With a smile on her face, Elisa strolled outside, while Remy remained rooted to his spot, watching her. After noticing that Remy hadn't followed, she turned back with a smile and inquired, "Didn't you mention treating me to coffee? Why aren't you coming? Do you have second thoughts?" "Why would I?" Remy promptly responded. He resumed his gentle demeanor, strode up to Elisa, and walked out of the villa alongside her. His bodyguards appeared ready to follow, but Remy halted them, "No need to accompany us." Both Elisa and Remy's bodyguards were left somewhat bewildered. Elisa looked surprised, and she asked, "Remy, are you not driving there?" "We're heading to the same place, so we can take one car," Remy casually explained. Elisa contemplated mentioning that she had other errands after their coffee, but she decided against it. Her additional plans could wait for another time. Remy, however, unexpectedly added, "I imagine many people in Wiltspoon recognize your car, Miss Stone. It's certainly safe for me to travel with you." Elisa and Remy were soon on their way, leaving the bodyguards lost for words. Elisa inquired, "Are you considering me your guardian angel?" Remy responded unabashedly, "I'm happy to pay for your services." Amused, Elisa chuckled and remarked, "I wasn't acquainted with your family in the past. After meeting you, I specifically asked my brother about your family. I learned that you're the least proficient in self-defense among your brothers, and that's why you always have bodyguards accompanying you when you go out, right?" As a child, I was quite chubby and lacked an inclination for exercise. I also wasn't particularly motivated when it came to kung fu practice. As a result, I have the lowest skills among my brothers. So, I had to hire bodyguards. Among Remy and his 9 brothers, he was the only one who consistently had bodyguards shadowing him. The others occasionally had a few bodyguards for appearances. Remy simply didn't feel secure without them. Elisa started her car and mentioned, "I'm a petite lady, but I don't have bodyguards accompanying me everywhere. I only bring a few when I go shopping for assistance with carrying things." Remy inquired, "Elisa, have you ever received combat training?" "Given my family background, I've had some self-defense training, but I lack real combat experience." Elisa had a formidable reputation in Wiltspoon, which discouraged confrontations with her. She was often perceived as feisty and outspoken. Also, her family's prominent status in Wiltspoon kept potential troublemakers at bay. So, even when she didn't have a bodyguard with her, most would steer clear of her car. With her stable life, she rarely required personal bodyguards when going out. Zachary was the most conspicuous individual in Witherspoon's upper class, but his bodyguards were primarily used to deter unwanted attention from his admirers. "Wonder Woman, I'll need you to protect me in the future," Remy remarked, causing Elisa to burst into laughter. She countered, "I lack actual combat experience, so how could I protect you? My training consisted of basic punches and kicks, and I've forgotten most of it." "Remy, you should find a woman who can defend herself to be your future wife. A policewoman or something similar. She'd be capable of safeguarding you in case of danger during your outings." Remy laughed as well. "There's no need for that. I can still handle any troublemakers. If I meet a woman I'm fond of, I'll protect her, even if it means getting hurt." With a grin, he looked at Elisa and added, "I can protect my woman." Elisa playfully stated, "I was just teasing." Elisa asked with a smile, "Have you met someone you like?" Remy responded, "I'm not entirely certain yet, not sure if it's love, but I do enjoy her company. I've never been in love before, so I'm taking my time to observe." Elisa's interest was piqued. "Which family is she from?" "I can't disclose it just yet. Once I confirm my feelings and successfully pursue her as my girlfriend, I'll definitely introduce you." Elisa didn't press for details and commented, "The lady you like must be exceptional. I've heard the Johnsons and the Yorks share similar values. Your families are incredibly careful when it comes to marriage because there's no divorce or moving away. Those who migrate to become foreigners can't access a share of the family fortune." Absolutely right. Men in our family value and cherish their wives. It's astonishing to learn the Yorks have a similar stance. Strong family values shape good men. There's a reason why your families are the wealthiest in your respective cities. Elisa believed her family had respectable values as well, but they couldn't compete with the Yorks and the Johnsons. Many men in the Stones family were notorious for infidelity, keeping mistresses, and fathering illegitimate children, leading to chaotic family lives. Elisa's parents, however, had a harmonious relationship, and they disapproved of unfaithful men in their family or marriage. Her mother specifically prohibited her older brother from elevating someone who had engaged in infidelity or fathered illegitimate children to an influential position within the company. "Elisa, can we consider ourselves friends now?" inquired Remy, his head tilting slightly. Elisa glanced at him, then returned her attention to the road. She responded with a smile, "We're friends, and we're also neighbors." Remy observed her side profile silently, admiring her bright personality and beauty. "May I ask a personal question then?" Remy inquired. "Of course, go ahead," Elisa replied, "I'll answer if I can, but please understand if I can't. Everyone has the right to protect their privacy." Remy smiled and queried, "What type of men do you find appealing, apart from Mr. York?" Remy was aware of Elisa's pursuit of Zachary. He had close ties with both York Corporation and Zachary himself. Elisa's pursuit of Zachary had been quite high profile. Elisa fell silent for a moment. "Elisa, I apologize, I was just curious. I think you're a genuinely kind person. It's not your fault that Mr. York isn't fond of you, it's simply because he met someone he genuinely connected with." Remy quickly apologized, fearing that he had touched on a sensitive topic for Elisa. "It's okay," Elisa assured him. "I've long moved on from my feelings for Zachary. Whether in the past or now, I can face him openly. He didn't wrong me, he never had any romantic interest in me, nor did he reciprocate my feelings or make any commitments. It was merely a one-sided attraction. I don't consider it a mistake to have pursued him. It's quite common for an outstanding man to be admired by many women, just as a remarkable woman might have many admirers. It's easier for a woman to express her feelings towards a man. I simply took the initiative, doing what many other girls might have wanted to but didn't have the courage to do. My efforts didn't yield any results, but I have no regrets, Elisa continued. I know that many people were curious if Serenity and I would become rivals due to Zachary's affection for her. I'm not known for having a good temper, so people expected some kind of conflict between us. In our social circle, no one would say it to my face, but they were undoubtedly waiting for a spectacle. Unfortunately for them, I disappointed their expectations. I was disappointed when Zachary chose Saren over me, but I have my pride. I accepted it, let go, and didn't cling to him. After all, I'm not destined to be single forever, and Zachary isn't the only remarkable man in the world. Additionally, Zachary has his flaws, and he even hurt Saren. Honestly, I believe she's more suited to him. If I were to clash with Zachary, it would undoubtedly become a heated confrontation because of our strong-willed personalities. I wouldn't remain calm, and I'd continue until I resolved the issue with him. Saren, on the other hand, manages conflicts with much more composure. Even when she was at her angriest when Zachary disclosed his true identity, she handled it far better than I would have. At this point, Elisa tilted her head to meet Remy's gaze, and they locked eyes for a moment before she returned her focus to the road ahead. Driving required her full attention. I find other members of the York family appealing as well, but I won't consider them any further, she continued. Thanks for watching. Part 2 will be uploaded soon.